Once you know how to create an app service in Azure portal or using Azure CLI, obviously configuring and monitoring those app services is a very important task. Because app services are platform as a service, Azure need to provide a lots of configurational options for you in that platform so that you can manage and configure your application properly. For example, we have cross-origin resource sharing. We know that in number of applications, this mechanism is required when you have your data and resources deployed on different origin of the server. And you can configure your HTTP verbs. You can even allow origin, all the headers associated with that thing using course configuration. Normally, course configuration is directly supported by APIs in this, and that's the reason. For all the app services, API apps are going to be associated with course configuration in that. Maybe you want to configure about the operating system and runtime patching. Because app service is a platform as a service, which means that the operating system and application stack are managed for you by Azure. You only manage your application as data. Azure manage operating system patching on two levels. The physical servers on the guest virtual machine that run the app service resources. Both are updated monthly. These updates are applied automatically in a way that guarantees the high availability SLA for Azure services. Every time the new and stable version of this patching is going to be available for you. Stable versions of your application runtimes are periodically added to your app services. Every app has a single inbound IP address with that, and this inbound IP address can change when you delete an app or you recreate it in a new resource group. Even when you have configured your SSL and TLS integration with your app, and if you delete that existing SSL binding, then also your inbound IP address is going to get changed. If you want to associate with the same kind of IP, then you can opt for a static inbound IP in that. And remember, each app has a set number of outbound IP addresses also based on an app service plan tier. So when you choose free tier, standard S1, or even the premium tier, as we know that different features are going to be changes based on that, and how many outbound IPs you're going to have, that is also going to change based on that. There are chances that you are trying to configure your web app instance in such a way that you have one inbound IP using which you can directly connect with that app service. But then that app service is connected with some other resources like maybe SQL databases hosted on Azure, or maybe you're trying to associate data with your Azure storage account. And you want to access data like a blob format or file formats into that. When you want to associate this thing, maybe you need multiple outbound IP addresses associated with different kind of resources with that. If you want to find outbound IP addresses of your app service, there are multiple ways to do that thing. You can either use this Azure CLI command and you can put on your resource group name and application name in that. Or you can find out all the possible IP addresses regardless of which tier is associated with that by this particular command. Now I'm sure you can try this command by yourself in the Azure CLI because now you know how to fire these commands. But right now let me show you these properties and configurations in the Azure portal directly. We are in the same application which we have created in the previous topic, and this first step LNO is showing me that this is created in the standard S1 plan. In the left side section, first if I focus on the section called properties, this is going to show me that how many inbound and outbound IP addresses are associated with that, with some other additional configurations. Like I have one virtual IP address associated with this, and then if I scroll down, I have outbound IP addresses associated with that, and also it's showing me that I have some FTP username and host name associated with that, which is going to be used if I want to deploy my resources or my deployment of my application codes into this. Left side, if I focus on the section where I have a configuration for APIs, and that we have course configuration. And this course configuration I can enable and disable from this property. Also, as I mentioned, we can add on our allowed origins from different servers, and once we add on that, we can also specify the HTTP headers information with that. If I want to focus on the monitoring of this application, I can specify alerts, metrics, and logs associated with that. We will see monitoring section in depth later on, so I'm not focusing on that right now. And if I scroll up somewhere we have a section where I can just click on custom domains, and in spite of this dummy domain which is azurewebsites.net, if I own my own custom domain, then I can just add on that custom domain. Or if I don't have anyone, I can also buy a new domain associated with that. I can configure my TLS and SSL settings in this, and I can associate this thing with the private or public certificate keys with that. If I do not have any certificate, I can also buy certificate from this particular link, and then it will be associated with this application. Last but not the least, I can click on networking section, where for security reasons, if your organization wants to access this application only within the particular virtual network, then you can configure that thing. If you want to specify a global load balancer with HTTP and HTTPS with web application firewall integration with that, we have a service in Azure called Azure Front Door, which can be integrated with your application, and based on the weightage configuration which you can do, you can load balance your applications even in the global multiple regions. Or if you want to get the higher performance for the point of presence locations, we have Azure Cdn, which can be configured in this app service. These all configurations which they are providing using this platform as a service are must for most of the business applications, and that's the reason we need to figure out how we can configure and manage these things in this.